Welcome to tonight's webinar. I'm your host, Alex Nottingham, founder and CEO of All-Star Dental Academy. We are often inundated with tons of information about how to become better and more efficient in running a dental office. The key to success is not getting more information. The key is implementation. The key is the how-to. The key is modeling the best in dentistry. And I'm proud to introduce to you one of the best in dentistry over the last 30 years, Dr. Bill Blatchford. Bill has helped close to 3,000 dental practices find more profitability and balance, and his systems have helped more dentists become more efficient and take more time off to enjoy life outside the practice. A former dentist, Bill has authored 4 books, published dozens of articles on topics like new patient systems that always work, eliminating staff drama, overhead reduction, and the art of selling dentistry. Please welcome Dr. Bill Blatchford.
Well, thank you, Alex. Here's a little bit more about me, too. I'm the one on the left. This is my family, which I'm quite proud of. My wife, we celebrated our 47th wedding anniversary yesterday. I married up. So I have 2 daughters, one of which is a dentist, Christina, the one with the sunglasses and the hat. Tiffany, who is actually a teacher, as my wife was a teacher for 10 years, and is a full-time mom, and then she works for Blatchford Solutions at this point, and they're our 2 wonderful son-in-laws. So nice time, and I'm extremely blessed in many areas. So pleased to be on this call tonight, and I want to start by just thanking each one of you for taking an hour out of your busy lives to spend with me, and hopefully I can give you some ideas tonight which will help your practice, and not just your practice, but I've always prided myself on the fact that my clients improve their life, because that's really why we practice in the first place. You see, the reason I kind of know this is because I was a dentist for 20 years. I guess once a dentist, always a dentist, but I had a goal back in that time in the early 80s to produce $1 million, and $1 million in the early 80s, if you adjust that for inflation, was somewhere between 2.6 and $3 million today. Now, I had a goal to hit $1 million. That was the goal. And you know what? I did it. By 1985, I was producing $1 million. But the interesting thing is that I had this aha moment. There was a dentist who I had lunch with twice a month. It was a regular thing. He was right across the parking lot from me. And he was doing $600,000, and his net was the same as mine. Now, that bothered me. And I started working at this. And so I've worked ever since then. This was one of those points in my career where I said, what really matters? And what really matters was the net income and the lifestyle that it was able to afford me, and also how much time was I working and how much did I have time to spend with my family. And that, to me, became more important than what the gross was. Well, tonight we're going to talk about not just how to get more new patients into the office. We're going to talk also about the lifestyle that this provides for us. I do want to mention that during that time, the net was about $300,000 out of the million, which was okay. I mean, the national average for overhead was 75%, so I was better than that. On $300,000, my accountant said, wow, this is really great. But you see, the dentist across the parking lot was doing $600, and he was netting the same $300. Interesting. Well, who's so smart? So I really went to work on the profitability side of dental practices, and also how much did I work. But we started putting this together, and we started this webinar tonight, and we started talking about the topic that most dentists want to learn more about. Now, as Alex said, I've coached somewhere in excess of 3,000 practices over the last 30 years, and the biggest thing that I find from dentists is they say, how can I help you? Which is what we teach our clients to ask their patients as well. And it's almost invariably, I need more new patients. And then I'll say, well, why do you need more new patients? Well, I have holes in my schedule, or I'm not as busy as I would like, or the patients I have had all their work done, or I want to do more dentistry. And I keep burrowing down on that, you see, and drilling down on that until a point where I find out, and eventually they say, I'd really like to net more income, and I'd like to be able to take a little more time off. Now we're getting down to some real answers, and of course, then we find out we want more net. What would you do with more net? What would you do with more time off? And now we're getting down to the real reasons what we're trying to accomplish. You see, everybody says more new patients. I'm going to show you some numbers. Just talking to this client about a week ago, and I would call him a senior doctor at this point. He is seeing 10 to 12 new patients a month, and he consistently does between 100 and 120,000 a month. Another client gets 125 new patients a month and consistently does around 300. Today I spoke with a client who gets 12 to 15 new patients a month, and this month will break $200,000. So you see, really what matters is what you do with these patients after you get them. So this is what I call the new patient myth. You see, there are many doctors out there that are getting plenty of new patients, but their team doesn't really know what to do with them once they arrive. So you see, the one doctor I showed you is averaging $10,000 a month per patient, and the other doctor is averaging $2,500 to $3,000 per patient. What's the difference? What is the difference here? We're going to explore that tonight. Well, here I am on the cover of Dental Town magazine a couple months ago, talking about my 7 simple new patient systems that will attract patients that not only have money, but are willing to spend money. And I'll be sharing all of that with you in this webinar. So if you stay on the entire webinar, I'm going to reward you with a link towards the end where you can download these new patient systems for free. You see, it's very easy to get new patients. It's what you do with these patients that matters the most. And I can tell you that if you increase the new patient flow without putting these other things in place I'm going to talk about this evening, it makes no difference. You see, I'm not just talking about ROI on marketing dollars. What I want everyone to do is answer this question. And that is, how consistent is your team at asking for referrals? Do they have a scripting system and a system for getting word-of-mouth referrals from the top 25% of your most profitable patients? You see, I'd even ask, do they even know who the top 20% of your patients are? Do you know who the top 20% of your patients are from a profitability point of view? See, this is really what matters, is how consistent they are at asking referrals and having great conversations with the patients about their long-term goals and the dreams these patients have. And this answer ties directly into how profitable these new patients are and the dentistry that you do, and how many of them will refer friends to you. So how accountable are they for this? And do they have a system for referrals where they can positively thrive every single month? So what we're doing is talking not just about how to get new patients in, but what to do with them. So I'd like to start with a subject that makes a huge difference. And in seminars, I generally talk about the fact that 4 other dentists and myself hired a psychiatrist to study how people make decisions, because we were all new doctors presenting treatment to patients and, you know, doing the way that we'd been taught in dental school and in various seminars at the time, and that was to educate these people to death. And if they just knew as much about this subject as we do, that they would probably go ahead and do the treatment. So we all built special rooms, patient education rooms, etc., and lots of props to educate our patients. Then we started to study this. That we got into a subject called deserve level. You see, everybody in this planet has a deserve level. If I'm going to show it to you this way. See, deserve level creates this comfort zone that we live in. Everything that we do, whether it be our relationships, the amount of money in our bank account, the fuel in our fuel tank, the income that we have, the treatment that we present to our patients, everything about our life, there's a certain comfort zone. This comfort zone has a floor, and it also has a ceiling. Now, we studied this for 47 years, but here's the scary part of that. There's also a ceiling on that comfort zone. And if we exceed the ceiling, we will sabotage ourselves and get back down where we belong. It's really interesting how this comfort zone or deserve level affects everything that we do. And my challenge to you would be to watch this over the next few weeks and just notice when you exceed your comfort zone, when do you pull back? And it's an interesting concept. So you see, I think one of the things we want to talk about tonight is new patients versus net profits. Now you see, part of that's this comfort zone too, because for some doctors it's okay to say, well, I'd like to get more new patients, but it's difficult to say, I'd like to increase my net income. I'd like to be able to take more time off. So you see that sometimes that's this deserve level as well kicks in here, and you say, well, I just don't know if I could really do that. So we're going to explore that. I want to start with a case study. I've got 3-4 case studies I want to show you tonight. This is Dr. Richard Dunn, upstate New York, Elmira, New York. He's been a client since 2012. You'll notice right by his photograph there's a phone number, and if you will later, not now, but later, call that phone number, you can actually listen to Richard speaking about his about this, and he'll fill you in and tell you how this all happened. But before he started to work with us, he was doing $1.25 million, which is a great practice. Overhead 80%, so you can see he's taking home $250,000, which is certainly puts him in the what our government would consider wealthy. Taking 2 weeks vacation, not a bad life. Now, here's what we did. You see, we did not raise his production a whole bunch. About $250,000. That's good. But we dropped the overhead to 55%. But notice this: he takes 7 weeks vacation now instead of the 2 weeks. So 5 additional weeks. But now he's getting 45% of 1.5 as opposed to 20% of 1.25. So what happened is we just almost, not quite, almost tripled his income, his net income, but 68 less clinical days per year. Now, that is significant. Interesting thing is, we didn't really increase his new patient flow all that dramatically. He had the new patients, but almost 3 times the net profit, but 68 less days. See, here's the average. This is for 2012. Now, our program is actually a 14-month program, so these figures that you're seeing here were actually based on 2012 figures, and they're for 12 months, not 14. So the average net income during 2012 for most dentists was flat or declining. Started to grow a little bit in 2013, and it looks like it's growing a little bit in 14. But in 12, it was still flat. But our average client was up over 127,000 of increased net. Now here's number 2. This is Dr. James Ross, Novi, Michigan. Now he's a client, started with us in February 2013 with us. Before our program, he was producing 550, and he was plateaued at that level. He'd been there for some time. His overhead was 70%, 2 weeks vacation. And what it took was in 1 year, we brought his production up to 1.1 million. That's double the production, dropped the overhead, and he took 6 weeks vacation. His wife's a flight attendant, and he was always frustrated. She has free tickets anywhere in the world, and he can't go because he's always working. So this is what took place. Again, you can dial that number. You'll notice a different number, and you can hear him tell you how he did this. But 45 less clinical days, and he actually raised his profit by triple. Average overhead. I speak at the ADA on a regular basis, and I always check these numbers out. The typical general dentist, which I understand most of you are general dentists on the call tonight, and is 73 to 75%. That's the average overhead. Where our clients, we keep them around 57%. And a number of these doctors, we actually have clients that finish under 50% every year. So we have that. It's easy to do. So here's the question. Here's one of the questions I want to ask yourself. Does your team have world-class sales skills? Now, many dentists will tell me, oh, I've got the wonderful staff. And my first question always is, what percentage of your gross do you spend on your team? Well, 30% is national average, and that hasn't changed in years. Our teams average 20%. So if your team is so wonderful, why does it take so many of them, and why does it take 30%? See, to me, that's a measurement of how effective that team is. So if we can go from 30% to 20%, you see that is a huge increase in your net income. Now, when I talk sales skills, I want you to understand something. I'm talking integrity selling. You see, sales is a bad word in dentistry, and I think for a lot of people. I very often in seminars have people tell me what they think sales is, and I call on people with their hands up, and it's convincing people, it's talking people into things, it's all these things, or educating people. And I said, no wonder we hate it, because that's not what sales is. You see, sales is real simple. Sales is simply finding out what people want and finding a way to deliver that. Find out what they want and deliver it, and that's by asking questions. And that's one of the biggest things that we teach doctors and teams, is how to ask those questions, how to find out what they want. And the last definition I have, no matter what we're talking about presenting to patients, I have a real simple definition. Remember the picture of those people in the swimming pool? I would not present any dentistry that I would not do for those people in my family. Not more, not less. And that's my last definition of what ideal care is. It's what I would do for my own family. So as we talk sales skills, understand that we're not talking people into something for any other reason than that's what would be best for them, given what they want long term and what their dreams are. All right, the next question I would like to ask too is, do you have a daily collection goal? Now I say collection, I'm also referring to production, but is there a goal? Does your team know it? Do you know it? I've talked to a lot of doctors and they say, well, yeah, we've got a goal. I'm not sure what it is. Oh, that's a real defined goal, isn't it? And does your team have any idea what? Well, I don't think so. We haven't talked about that in a long time. And that's part of what Alex was talking about when he talked about the difference between knowing something and doing it. So what is your daily collection goal? How is your team held accountable for reaching that goal? I started out and I said the question, do you even know what the goal is? Well, if they don't know what the goal is, I can tell you there's no accountability whatsoever. But we're going to be looking at this in the teams that we work with, and they have goals, and we have some systems I'll share with you how they're held accountable for some of these things. All right, so here's an example right here that how sales skills made a huge difference. This is Dr. Tom Brown. And the reason I want you to call these numbers and listen to these people, these are real dentists. These are real dentists. They're real clients. This is not some fictitious story that I made up and said, Dr. TB from Pennsylvania. No, this is Tom Brown, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You can call the number and listen to him. He was doing really well, marketing extremely well, and I'll show you his new patient flow in a moment. He's producing $2 million, taking home 70% of $2 million. Hey, that's not bad. I mean, that's $600,000 net income, taking 3 weeks vacation. I remember meeting with Tom and his wife. I always meet with new clients one-on-one for the best part of the day. And his spouse, his wife, was quite skeptical, actually, that we could do that because they're already making $600,000. Why spend the money on trying to improve that? And he gets 3 weeks vacation, and that's good. So anyway, 1 year later, he's producing $3 million. But look at the overhead. He's dropped it to 62%, and he's taking 8 weeks off. So I would actually challenge you to hear that whole story, and he'll tell you how he walks into a treatment room, and the patients have already had this discussed with the team and are routinely saying, yes, I want to get started. And he hasn't even said anything yet. And so I want you to listen to his whole story as he talks about that. But now I can round that off, and you can see that close to 38% net, let's say 40% of $3 million, is just a little over $1 million of net income with 8 weeks. And I can tell you something else in addition to this slide. In 2014, Tom has 12 weeks scheduled off. 12 weeks scheduled off with his family. So that's a week a month. And you'll start to see, I'm going to show you why that's so important as we get through this. So he was already getting a great new patient flow, 100 plus every month. Tom was doing a lot of direct mail, big web presence, and certainly had a good new patient flow. But he had plateaued at 2 million. Now, a lot of people would be very happy with a 2 million plateau. I'd like to get to, many dentists would love to get to a $2 million plateau, but he wasn't satisfied. So if you listen to that, you'll find out the whole story on that. But here's the reason. His team was not consistently selling dentistry. I can even rephrase this slide for you. His team was consistently not selling dentistry. There's a difference there. They were consistent, all right. They weren't doing anything. They were just, they were just going through the motions, and these people weren't accepting treatment. So some sales training, again, were not anything that we would not offer to our own families. You see, they were prejudging the patient, and they were only presenting, now let's go back to deserve level, they were inflicting their patients with their own deserve level. And this is an issue that we find very often, is prejudging patients based on what we think they can afford or what they will go for. It's a real good way never to be rejected or never have somebody say no to you, is just don't present much. So you see, now he's working, this was for 2013, 54 less days, but an increase in net by 2/3. So really something. So, all right. So here's the next question I'd like to ask. Is your new patient flow healthy or pathologic? And that's a term that we toss around in our program a lot. Pathologic or healthy new patient flow? Well, there's a way to calculate that. First, you need to know the number of your active patients. Now, here's a real simple way to calculate the number of active patients in your practice. You take the number of hygiene days you have per week. So if you're working four days, you have a hygienist each day, you have 4 hygiene days per week. You multiply the number of hygiene days per week by 200, and that will tell you how many active patients you have in your practice. In the example I just gave of practice working 4 days a week, 4 days of hygiene, times 200 is 800 active patients. Now, you may argue, and you'd be correct to say, but I have 2,000 charts. Yes, you have 2,000 charts, but you only have 800 people active in your recall program. And that's just real simple. At an hour appointment, that's what it's going to take, is that much. So you can just do the math. Now, let's talk about pathologic or healthy. Let's say we have 800 patients in the practice. If you have 800 patients in the practice, I figure you want to know, and I received this number years ago from the realtors. You see, we support a lot of realtors in this country, and that's because about 20% of the American public moves every 5 years. So that means 20% move every year. So in a 5-year period, we have 100% turnover. So 20% move out of your practice each year. Now, not only do they move, but people die, people get married, and they go to the spouse's dentist. So if we use a conservative figure of 20% leaving your practice every year. Now, there are people out there that talk about closing the back door. Closing the back door. Well, you can close the back door all you want, but if somebody gets transferred from Chicago, Illinois to Seattle, Washington, there's a real good chance they're going to find a new dentist in Seattle, Washington. Oh, you can all tell me stories about how the patient moved to Hong Kong and they still come back to see you. I know, we all have those. However, 99% are going to find a dentist wherever they are today, not traveling halfway around the country to come to you. So 20%. So let's go back to our example. 800 patients, 20% is 160 a year are leaving your practice. Now, so in that case, in order to have a healthy new patient flow to grow, you need at least 161 new patients coming in just to stay healthy. If you have less than 160 patients coming in per year in this example, you have what I term a pathologic new patient flow. And you're all doctors. If an organism is pathologic long enough, it will die. So, pathologic. Now, if you've been in practice a few years and have a pathologic new patient flow, one of the things that I think you need to ask yourself is, people say, well, what do I do to get more new patients in? And I say, if you've been practicing a few years or bought a practice, is you need to ask yourself, what are we doing to keep people away? what are we doing to prevent people from referring their friends and colleagues here? Now, if you study, which we do, and we have our clients do a lot of reading of very successful books, and if you read about Disney, they have found that 67% of patients leave a practice due to apathy. They feel like you or someone on their team doesn't care about them. Number one reason, apathy on part of the team, including the doctor. Simple little things. Putting patients on hold, putting patients on voicemail during the regular business day. You know, it's crazy what we do to people, and they still fight their way through, and they still come to us. You see, you have to have what we call wow customer service. I mean, it's a incredible secret. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. It's so easy. It's keeping them happy and referring. So we're going to talk about some of these things. But right now, I'm going to show you my number one new patient secret. And this is something that no one in dentistry is really talking about. I've been talking about it for years. I have had literally hundreds of clients do this, and this is my number one new patient system. As a matter of fact, my daughter and I, this is Christina and myself, we just published a book on this subject. It's the No-Nonsense Transitions. Now, so the number one new patient to really dramatically grow a practice is to simply buy another practice in close proximity to your practice, and a doctor is retiring, maybe a doctor going back to school, whatever it is, and merge those two patient bases. Now, my daughter just did this. She bought a practice. She's 5 years out of dental school. She bought a practice right out of dental school. She actually arranged the purchase in April of her senior year. She took over August 1st. The practice was doing it had been plateaued at about $600,000. In Portland, where she's 5 miles from the dental school, we've got lots of dentists. I mean, there's lots of dentists there. And in the first 12 months, she grew that practice a little over 800. Second year, she took 2.5 months off, had a baby. We had a locum in to take the practice while she was out. We still grew it a little bit. Then it kind of plateaued there a little bit. So a few months ago, she found another practice 2 miles away. Doctor was wanted out, and she bought another practice doing $600,000, merged the two. And again, we get, sure, a few patients will go away, but we've never done a merger where we have failed to outproduce the selling doctor. So immediately, she's averaging over $100,000 a month in income. This is income, not production, because she has some PPOs. We're counting only what goes in the bank. And she's doing this with one person at the front, one assistant, and 2 hygienists. So you can do the math. When she merges that second practice, you see, about 65% of that income goes straight to the bottom line, because the only additional expenses she has on it is 20% for the staff, 10% for lab, and 5% for supplies. So the rest of it is already covered. So that's very important. Now, you see, what we did to grow that practice from 600 to 800 in the first years, we installed some new patient systems, a referral system. We did direct mail. We really worked on the search engine optimization for her. We really had some people working on that, because in Portland, I think there's one dentist for every 600 or 700 people. So, you know, you've got to really work at that. So we did that. But the big thing was the merger that we did. So it's been phenomenal. I mean, this year, currently, I think I'm working on 6 or 7 of these right now, and they're just absolutely amazing. So that's secret number one. As a matter of fact, if you go to our website later, you can download this 7 mistakes that most dentists make when buying or selling a practice. And for this particular call, you'll be more interested in the mistakes that people make when buying. But go to Blatchford.com/7 mistakes and get that free white paper on this subject. But these are incredible things. You see, what we also did for Christina, I get excited about her practice, is we trained the team on customer service. I mean, it's just huge. And it was basic stuff, but you'd be amazed how many offices don't do it. It's amazing. All right, so the number two new patient system is one that it's just absolutely amazing. And it's word of mouth referral systems. You can call it patient to patient, you can call it internal marketing, you can call it whatever you want. But when most doctors tell me that they do internal marketing, it usually means we don't do anything. That's what that usually means. So what we have to do is set up a system where each person is basically assigned a patient each day that they will be talking to about a referral, and then held accountable for that at the quick evening meeting. We check off, we set up an Excel spreadsheet basically on a whiteboard, and everybody has a chance to say, yes, they talked to that patient about a referral, or they didn't. And one of the things that we do is we give them scripting. Now, the scripting basically is very simple. Is you're thanking them for being a patient, and you ask them for a referral. Now, we work with each individual team members to give them a script that they feel comfortable using, although you will find that sometimes they're not comfortable no matter what we say. But then we practice that, and we practice that so it becomes comfortable for them. So many team members and doctors say, well, when I get a compliment, I ask for a referral. Well, you can't wait for that. You've got to be much more proactive than that. So we give you some scripts to get into that. So it's a real good system. And I'd like to see 40% or more of all of our new patients coming in through word-of-mouth referrals. We find they stick with the practice longer. They generally accept more treatment. As a matter of fact, the doctor that I referred to earlier, who gets 12 to 15 new patients a month and is doing around $200,000 a month, almost all of her patients are coming from direct word-of-mouth referrals. So that's really something. All right. So now the next thing that we talk about, and this is when I list my 7, you'll find this is one of them as well, is this whole thing about 80-20. We have studied practice after practice. And what we have the doctor do is list all of their patients on an Excel spreadsheet. We list them by name. Column A, column B is how much they spent in the last 12 months, and column C is a running total. Well, here's what we find. We find that about 20% of our patients produce somewhere around 80% of our income. And then, so we call those the top 20. Now, we start to study those top 20. We find everything out about them: their age, their gender, the type of treatment they do, if they have insurance or not, how they're referred to our practice. In other words, everything we can think about those patients. And we want more of those. Keep that in mind. If you're taking notes, write that down. We want more of those. Now, we find the next 60% of our patients, which is called the Farm Club, we refer to what they produce as about 30% of our income. So now if you're doing the math with me, you'll notice we're at 110%. Well, guess what? We call that last group of people the bottom 20, and they actually cost us 10%. I will bet with anybody on the call, and we've got several hundred on this call by now, that you and your team spend a majority of your time on the bottom 20. And that's a bet that I've never lost. You spend a majority of your time on the bottom 20. So, and by the way, I will also tell you that not only you spend a majority of your time on them, you don't want referrals from those people, and you have most of your office policies are made for the bottom 20. So that's a real important rule that we follow. And so that's something to look at. Now, that's purely objective. Now, we do a subjective overlay on that because some people, like myself, who, 17 years ago, my mouth was fully restored in bonded porcelain. I go in once a year to my daughter's office and have my teeth cleaned. And so I'm in the bottom 20 purely from an objective point of view, but I'm a pretty good referral source for her, so she treats me really well. Besides that, the fees are really good in her office for me. So anyway, okay, number 3 that we're going to teach here is the audio training. Now, we have and this is all in a list that you can download at the end of this call, it's called the $1 Million New Patient Checklist. And it's a checklist of what's most important once the new patients arrive for an appointment. And to me, this is critical. You see, most referrals from patients are going to come from new patients, interesting enough. So it's real important how you treat these new patients once they arrive in the office. So we're going to kind of go through these quickly. Number 4 is the video training, and I have a video that you can download as well on the best case acceptance secrets and strategies for implants and restorative patients. And one of my top clients, Dr. Ron Zokol, is on that call with me, and Ron has an incredible practice doing that, pretty much implant restorative. All right, number 5 is the 80-20 spreadsheet. I said it was there someplace. The best way to train your team how to identify the 20% of your patients that are most likely to refer. Now just walk them right through this spreadsheet and show them how to set this up. All right, number 6 is the power. We call it POFO, positive focus. It's an audio, what our top clients are doing, not just in area of new patients, but also how they keep a positive focus and attitude. It's incredible, a video what they're doing. And then number 7 is the ultimate overhead reduction and how to start making extra instant money right away. Some of you are going to say, I don't have any money for marketing. See, the first thing that we do is lower the water so you have money to spend on the marketing, because you can't do it if you're at 75 or 80%. So to have a robust marketing program, you have to have between 6 and 10% available. And one of the places we look is, what are you spending on staff? Okay, so connecting the dots on working less and making more. So I'm going to show you some things here real quickly. The 40 years of research, and I've done this on 3,000 offices. Now this is how we work less. And I know I'm getting a little behind, so I'm talking a little bit faster, so pay attention. I studied 64 dentists for 2 years on a very simple thing called diagnosis per day, on the theory that if I diagnose and present treatment, it might get accepted, and if I don't present it, it will not get accepted. So I started keeping track of this. By the way, we still keep track of this. And I studied these doctors for 2 years. They did not know I was studying this. And I studied on days of the week. And you will notice what happened. They did pretty well for about 3.5 days. It dropped off dramatically by Thursday. This is when the doctor walks into hygiene. Hygienes talk to you about treatment on a patient. And you're tired. You don't want to do it. And so you go on from there, and you're afraid to say no. So it's easier to say, let's watch it. Well, we also found the same thing on the number of weeks since a vacation. So we found that somewhere between 6 and 7 weeks a drop off in this. And I termed this diagnosis fatigue syndrome. Well, I've also studied with a man named Dan Sullivan, who's my coach in my business, one of my coaches. And he found that when people go on a vacation, these are entrepreneurial people, we come back and we're very productive. Then we go into a mechanical phase, going through the motions, and then we actually get to where we hit the burnout phase. And then we say to ourselves, I really need a vacation. I need to get out of here. So we take a vacation and start the whole thing over. Now, this paradigm was based on vacations being doled out as a reward for hard work. And we shift that to vacations are preparation for productive work. And that's a paradigm that's it's difficult to shift for a lot of people. We help you with that. So I call that diagnosis fatigue syndrome. So what we do, how these doctors cut down the amount of time they're working, is we eliminate the mechanical and the burnout phase, and it's vacation productive, etc. And I'm talking pure vacation time. I'm not talking a CE course where you go out, you really don't have vacation time. So I'm talking with my clients, all are taking between 8 and many of them are taking 12 weeks of vacation with their family, doing their hobbies, traveling, doing whatever they want. I literally have people call me. I had a client, Southern California, who just called me. He's been practicing 35 years. They had their honeymoon in Hawaii 35 years ago. They've promised themselves to go back to Hawaii, never have. And a month ago, they took their whole family, all adult children, and went to Hawaii for 2 weeks, had the time of their life, and I got a nice card from the wife thanking me for this, that for the first time in 35 years, they got back to Hawaii for a vacation. And to me, that's what I do. All right, here's my friend Matt Fluge. Matt is one of my elk hunting buddies, and he practices in the little town of East Wenatchee, Washington. And before he met me, he was doing 750, 68% overhead, 4 weeks vacation. Now, 1.37, 54% overhead, and 10 weeks off. Now, here's something kind of neat about this, is that his wife has a career, which they have 4 children, 4 young children, and so she practices as a physical therapist 1 day a week, and that happens to be Wednesday in his. And in the summer, Wednesday is Daddy Day. So Matt stays home with his children on Wednesday. He works 3 days a week, and so that's one of the things we look. So the 82 is the number less days that he worked after he started to work with us. So 82 less days. So this is what we offer, is work less, make more money, guaranteed. This is what we offer. We offer a thing called the Personal Excellence Conversation. Now, what does this include?
Here's what my Personal Excellence Profile is all about. For those of you who are excited about joining the top 1% of the most profitable practices and genuinely want to learn more about what specific steps we can make to help you get there, we have a process just for you, and it's called my Personal Excellence Profile. But you have to make a decision about wanting to join the top 1% of doctors. That's based on income, but it's also based on a lot more than just that. It's about quality of life. It's not for everyone, so let me be crystal clear and tell you who this is for. It's for those doctors that really like to make decisions and are ready to move forward to improve their practice, to improve themselves and improve the quality of the practice and the quality of their lives. So we have set up a process just for you. The Personal Excellence Profile is really an opportunity to rekindle your dreams. Why'd you get into dentistry in the first place? You see, many people have lost that dream. So I'm going to show you how to reconnect all those dots and become ridiculously more profitable right now. Not someday or next month or next year, right now. So there's a risk-free $1,000 investment for this. So here's what you'll get. You'll get an hour, one-on-one with me, where by the end of that call, I'll give you a roadmap to reconnect those dots and find several $100,000 of profit in your practice. Now, my average is about $150,000 of profit in increase in the first year. But I have hundreds of doctors who have done triple, double, quadruple that in their first year. And I'm talking about net profit. That's what you take home. Now, Uncle Sam will want part of that, but it's what you take home. In addition to that, you're going to be taking a lot more time off and do more of the kind of dentistry that you love doing. So step one is to complete my Personal Excellence Profile. You and your spouse, if you're married, or your partner or business partner involved in your decision-making process. I want you to fill this out together. This is important because it's not just about the praxis, it's not just about the numbers, it's about your life. It's about where you are in life and where do you want to go with your life for the next 3, 5, 10, 20, maybe 30 years for some of you. Step two is I will study every word of your profile. I'll take notes and develop your plan in detail. So when we get on the phone, I'm going to identify those areas in the practice that we can dramatically improve. Now, when I say improve, I mean improve the profitability. And I'm going to show you how we can get this done in less time. See, to me, that's more important than the money. If we can get this done, it's going to bring you a much more rich and a full life right now. Now, if we go through this and for some reason you're not sized for the game plan that I lay out, I will simply credit your account for that $1,000. That's my personal guarantee. But let's assume that you're going to love this call. And let's assume that your life, both in and out of the practice, is going to make a positive change. We change lives. We make good dental practice absolutely outstanding. And we make it fun. And we will show you how to make more money and take more time off than you've ever dreamed of. Look, I know a lot of you are doing really well. Some of you are producing really well, producing a staggering amount of dentistry. I also know that some of you are struggling to find your way, and that's okay. But I also know the reason you're watching this is because you're hungry for more, and that's exactly the kind of dentist that I work with, winners. Winners who want to grow their practice by double digits while reducing their overhead and eliminating debt without excuses. You see, if you honestly feel that you're hungry for more personal and professional success and significantly hungry for more take-home pay, then I challenge you to invest $1,000 and about an hour of your time to prove it to me. All right, so we've covered steps 1 and 2. Step 3 is your 1-hour phone strategy call with me. I'll be asking you some hard-hitting questions in this profile. There's absolutely nothing cookie-cutter about this. Be ready to rate your team members individually. Be ready to take a long look at the amount of time you're working and the vacation time that you may or may not be taking. Be ready to take a look at yourself as a dentist and as a business person. We'll ask each other some tough questions. And at the end of the call, perhaps even before our call, maybe you'll make a decision while you're completing my profile. But at the end of your call, you'll need to make a decision one way or the other about moving ahead with myself and my team. And if you're doing this call with me and decide that you're a fit and you can apply the $1,000 towards working with me, And I want to offer this to anyone who's even 1% skeptical. If you feel this call was not in any way whatsoever not worth every penny of the $1,000 you invested, I'll authorize my offers to simply put the $1,000 back on your credit card as fast as it went on.
I can't work with everybody. I'm not trying to be the biggest consultant in dentistry. I just want to be the best. And I will tell you this, that I measure that by the results of my clients. And I limit this opportunity to 5 doctors at a time. All I ask is that you make a decision one way or another. And if you'd like me to be your coach, we'll take you on. And I promise no pressure and 0 risk. And I can easily give you 10 times that $1,000 back on that hour call, just following one suggestion we'll make. So again, I'm accepting 5 appointments for these calls from this webinar. So if you're watching this and you really want to speak with me one-on-one about improving your practice, your life, I hope you're one of the 5 that I talk to.
And Alex, since I have a reputation in dentistry for slashing overhead in close to 3,000 practices, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and instantly slash the overhead of every doctor who schedules a one-on-one call with me by 57%. So on this webinar only, you can lock in your one-on-one call for just $430, not the $1,000 price that hundreds of dentists have previously invested for this call. But let me be clear about this. It's a one-time only offer. If you say no now, it's $1,000 later, and there will be no exceptions to this.
Wow, that's great. I like that 57% instant overhead reduction.
Well, I want to do something special for the doctors listening. There are a lot of other things they can be doing right now. And just by watching this, it tells me they're hungry. And as I mentioned, I love working with doctors that are hungry.
Super. That's perfect.
So to lock in your personal excellence conversation, you go to milliondollarleap.com, or you can call my office and leave a message with your details at 866-495-7080.
I had a question from the audience. A couple quick questions, but first, what is the opinion about using Google pay-per-click to attract new patients?
Well, here's the thing about this. This is something, of course, I've been practicing been at this game 40-some years now, and this is all fairly new, but it's an amazing new patient tool. I know dentists who are just crushing it with Google pay-per-click, but you've got to have the right offer. You can't just run any offer and expect it to work or expect your office to be flooded with phone calls. So I would suggest, first off, that you study the top pay-per-click dental practices and the key words that you offer in your practice. They're most profitable, like restorative, same-day dentistry, implants, sedation, sleep apnea, things like this. These are things that people are looking for, and you've got to put the right things in. Another thing that I see, which I think is a great thing to advertise on pay-per-click, is one of the words would be second opinion consultation. These are people that have already been to a dentist. They want to do the dentistry, but for some reason they're looking for additional answers. And we have found that this one is one that really helps. And of course, I have very good scripting for second opinions, and I always make sure that my teams get that. And of course, my thing is, well, you have several choices. One is to do nothing. You'll probably be okay, and you can do it the way you've always done it. 2 is you can go back to your dentist, or you can look at me. Now, we have some scripting on the phone for that as well, for that second opinion. And this is a very interesting question. It sounds like you've studied this quite a bit. Where are you in your research? And then listen up. Find out where they are. Have they decided to do the dentistry, and now they're looking for a dentist? And if so, what are they looking for in a dentist? But I've seen a lot of different things, and here's what I would do. I would test a lot of different offers, proven offers, and then I'd measure what's converting best before I'd start spending thousands of dollars on a campaign. Alex, I've literally seen dentists burn through thousands of dollars on pay-per-click and completely strike out. Why? Because they didn't have the right offer. And a way to limit how much you spend is only have it on Google on the days your office is open with a live person answering the phone. It makes a huge difference. I mean, you're going to get calls, and if it goes to voicemail, I can tell you these are not people that are going to do that.
Before we go further, I'm getting some questions from dentists about the 7 new patient systems bonus that you mentioned earlier. Can we post a link for doctors to download these bonuses if you have the link handy?
Yeah, right here. This is the
Okay.
simple
Oh,
system.
perfect.
Yeah. So it's blatchford.com/all-star7.
Okay.
And you can just go to that link and you can download that. And this is not just how to attract patients. It's how to attract people that are willing to spend money.
Okay, let's keep this link up here for a few minutes so we can get the doctors to jot it down while we take a few more questions.
If I could just go a bit further
Sure.
with this one, we get questions, what other new patient strategies are working? And being that I let the cat out of the bag that I've been at this 40-some years, I graduated from dental school in 1970, and I never thought that I would recommend outdoor ads, that is billboards. But I can tell you, that's one that's working in many marketplaces. We had one office that had a billboard on a highway, heavily traveled highway. It wasn't really close to their office, within a mile, I guess. They had a sign on one side of the highway, and I suggested they put one on the other side of the highway, and it almost doubled new patient flow. I mean, something that simple. Another doctor we worked with put her ad on the back of the city buses, but she only put it on the buses that went by her office. And so really, really neat stuff going on out there. Direct mail is working really well in many offices. We've worked with marketers from all over that can target affluent households, show you how not to target the households that have huge mortgages that are underwater, or worse, about going to bankruptcy. So there's a lot of science in target marketing today that we can use. Another thing that we've found that really works is live seminars, and we have many clients that do this, and I help them. You probably gathered I like to speak. I can put together a quick little presentation for them, and we have found that you start inviting patients to your practice or to a hotel boardroom or something like that. Newspapers are working great. I've got a friend that runs an ad on the obituary page of the newspaper that says, "Attention denture wearers." And I remember asking him one time, well, who would look at that? And he said, people that don't like their dentures. I said, oh, okay, bingo. You see, the reason I mention that is I get a lot of dentists who think they're advertising creative directors, and I don't want to attract that kind of patient. Well, this particular doctor has built a large practice around placing implants, and who do you place implants on? You need edentulous people, and so we do want that kind of patient. So, but the lesson here is all the advertising has to be emotional, right brain kind of stuff, and I could talk on this for hours, but I better not.
No, it's good, really good stuff. But you're right with you're actually right with pay-per-click. You can spend a lot of money, and you got to make it. You can't just send them to your page. You got to think about it, be strategic. And you're right about billboards. Surprisingly, they're very effective, because I think partly a lot of people think they don't work, so they don't do it, and they're very cost effective in many markets.
It depends on the market.
It does.
And the public, I can tell you this: the dentists say, "Well, I wouldn't do that." Well, quit thinking like a dentist and think like a consumer.
I had a question from the audience. A couple quick questions, but first, what was the link? And several people are asking about that link for that the consultation you're doing. What is the link that they can do to get that? I'm having several people raise their hands. They want to know about that. Do they? Okay, there you go. Okay, milliondollarleap.com, and that's the number there. Okay, perfect. All right, okay, let's keep that up for one moment. Huh?
I'll leave this up.
While keeping this up here, in your opinion, what is the best online review system that you think has worked very well for your clients?
You know, you're talking about Google and Yelp, I presume.
Yes.
All of them. In some places, Angie's List is very popular. So
Yeah.
That's what you've got to do. You've got to be active at this, because, you know, I see all kinds of statistics from psychologists that, you know, people are 20 times more likely to put a negative review as a positive review. And so if you're going to get positive reviews, you've got to be proactive, and you've got to make it easy for patients. And the thing that we do is we have our clients hand a printed paper to the patient and say, you know, if you enjoyed your experience, we'd really like you to post something on Google or Yelp or Angie's List and others. But those are the three major ones that we seem to use. And because we've had people try it from their office computers and iPads and various things. That doesn't work. You've got to have an IP address that's distinct. And so the patient has to do it from their own computer. But you've got to make it easy for people. And part of this is if you don't hold the team accountable for asking for the reviews, you won't get them because people are more likely, they won't say anything. And you've got all these people out there that are excited about your practice, and they don't say anything, and then you get one negative review. And sometimes people go to these reviews almost looking for a reason not to come to you. And if they find one negative, boom, they're not coming. And if you can get enough positives,
true.
what happens is they come in order, it just pushes them down, and you've got 30 beautiful reviews, and then you've got one negative, and then 30 beautiful ones. And so that's what you have to do there. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that's a great answer to it. Reviews these days are incredibly important.
Well, reviews today, Alex, that's the word of the mouth of yesterday.
Yeah. All right, Bill. So I guess do you have any last words to share?
Well, I thank you very much. Thank you, Alex, for this opportunity. And again, thank you to all of the doctors who have given up some time for this call tonight. I'd like to just remind everybody that life is short. My wife and I get up in the morning, and we just had our anniversary, and we say to each other, we've got to get this day going because we only got 30 years left. And I think that is the real key here, is that life is short and it's moving on at a very rapid rate. And I think that's a critical part. So thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you, Bill. And, I keep listening to you, and I keep thinking of the word authentic. The time you put into and the care you have for other dentists and people and life, it's just it's infectious. So I really appreciate that. I'm sure everybody does here as well. On behalf of everyone at All-Star Dental Academy and Dr. Bill Blatchford and his wonderful team. So until next time, go out there and be an all-star. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.